Daniel Carter had always liked quiet places, while most people preferred busy towns with bright lights and loud conversations. He found comfort in the wide, open spaces of the desert. For his work as a wildlife surveyor, he often traveled alone into remote areas where the wind was the only sound for miles. He enjoyed the stillness, the colors of the sky at sunrise, and the peaceful rhythm of nature. The land near the Arizona-New Mexico border felt familiar to him after years of study. He treated it with respect, especially because he knew many Apache families lived nearby. Though he did not know them personally, he understood how important the land was to them and made sure never to disturb their boundaries or traditions. On a warm morning in early spring, Daniel set out before sunrise to check animal tracks near the San Carlos River. The sky was painted light orange, and the cool air brushed against his face. Usually, mornings like this were calm and predictable. He walked with steady steps, checking the soft ground for prints, writing notes on his clipboard, and stopping every so often to listen to the sounds around him. But on this particular day, something very different happened, something that would change his life in a way he never expected. As Daniel approached the riverbank, he heard a sharp splash. At first he thought it might be a large fish or a deer crossing, but then he heard another sound, a voice, faint but urgent. He froze and listened again. The sound came once more, clearer this time, filled with worry and fear. His heartbeat quickened. Someone was in trouble. He hurried toward the river and scanned the water. There, near a bend in the river where the current was strong, he saw a young woman struggling to stay above the surface. The water churned around her, pulling her toward a cluster of rocks. It must have been the sudden spring runoff, he thought. Heavy rain in the mountains sometimes caused the river to rise quickly, turning calm water into something unpredictable. The woman tried to swim, but the current kept dragging her sideways. Daniel could see the look of fear on her face as she fought to keep her head above water. He looked around for a branch or rope, anything to help her, but there was nothing nearby. He knew he had only a few seconds to act. Without thinking about anything except helping her, he stepped into the water, then moved deeper until the river reached his waist. The cold rush surprised him, but he kept going. The current pushed against him, but he pushed back, keeping his eyes fixed on the woman. "Hold on," he called out, hoping his voice would calm her. She saw him and reached out her hand, though the water kept pulling her away. Taking slow, steady steps, Daniel moved closer until he could safely grab her arm. Her grip was tight as she tried to steady herself. He assured her softly that she would be fine. Then, with careful movements, he guided her toward the riverbank, staying between her and the stronger current. Once they reached shallow water, two Apache men rushed over from the trees where they had been gathering materials. They had seen the final moments of the rescue and quickly helped Daniel bring the young woman onto dry ground. She lay there breathing heavily, soaked from head to toe, but safe. One of the men hurried off to get a blanket from their nearby camp, while the other thanked Daniel with deep sincerity. The young woman slowly sat up. Her dark hair clung to her face and shoulders, and her breath came in slow, steady pulls as she recovered from the shock. She looked at Daniel with grateful but tired eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft but full of meaning. Daniel smiled gently. "I'm glad you're okay." The two men helped her stand, and together they supported her as they walked toward their community just a short distance away. Daniel expected them to say goodbye there, but instead they invited him to follow them so the elders could properly thank him. He tried to refuse politely, saying he didn't need any reward for doing what anyone should do, but they insisted kindly. Their tone was respectful, and Daniel recognized their sincerity. He agreed. The Apache settlement was peaceful and tidy, with simple homes arranged around open spaces shaded by tall cottonwood trees. A few children watched curiously as Daniel passed by, and older women nodded at him kindly. Soon he was guided to an area where several elders sat together under a wooden structure that offered cool shade. The young woman, now wrapped in a warm blanket, sat nearby. One of the elders, a calm man with gentle eyes, stood and offered Daniel a seat. "We saw what happened," the elder said. "You acted with courage and kindness. For that, we honor you." Daniel nodded politely. "I'm grateful. I only did what I could." The elders shared looks among themselves, and a quiet, meaningful pause settled over the group. Daniel felt a shift in the atmosphere, though he didn't know what it meant. The elder continued speaking, his voice warm, but also carrying weight. "You may not know this," he said, "but in our tradition, an act like yours has deep meaning. Saving someone from the river is seen as a sign. It is rare, and it is sacred." Daniel blinked, unsure what he had just heard. He thought they were simply speaking about gratitude or blessing. But the tone of the elders suggested there was more to it, something serious, something unexpected. The elder took a breath before explaining that long ago, in Apache belief, the river was thought to carry the spirit of life. When a person near death was pulled safely from its waters by another, it was said that their paths had been joined. The act created a symbolic bond. In old times, this bond was interpreted as a connection that carried responsibility. Sometimes, it indicated that the rescuer and the rescued were linked in a way that could influence future decisions about care, protection, or even companionship. Daniel felt confusion grow inside him. He had never heard of such a custom. He looked at the young woman whose name he learned was Nyan, saw that she, too, seemed surprised and a bit uncertain. She looked down, avoiding eye contact, as though unsure how to respond. "I think there must be a misunderstanding," Daniel said gently. "I only did what anyone would do." But the elder shook his head softly. "We understand your intention. This is not about asking you to accept something blindly. It is about our interpretation of what happened. Some in our community believe the old customs should still be respected." Daniel felt a mix of worry and kindness. He didn't want to disrespect any tradition, but he also didn't want to be mistaken for agreeing to something he did not understand. He sensed that Naya felt caught in the middle as well. Though the tone of the conversation remained peaceful, Daniel felt the weight of their expectations. He tried to explain his view with respect, choosing his words carefully. "I honor your traditions," he said, "but I hope you understand that I did not act with any deeper intention. I only wanted to help someone who needed help." The elders listened without interruption. Some nodded thoughtfully. Others shared glances, as though considering how to respond. The moment felt long, filled with meaning, but also uncertainty. Eventually, the gathering ended with warm words and appreciation, but the delicate tension lingered. Daniel left the community with a thoughtful heart. He knew he had done the right thing by helping Naya, yet he could not shake the feeling that he had stepped into something far bigger than he ever imagined. As he walked back toward his campsite, the soft breeze carried the distant voices of the community behind him. He wondered what awaited him next and how a simple act of kindness had suddenly become a matter connected to history, belief, and responsibility. He had no idea that the days ahead would be even more complicated than the rescue itself. Daniel woke up the next morning with a mix of curiosity and concern. He had expected his life to return to normal after the rescue, but instead his thoughts kept circling back to the meeting. With the elders, the calm river, the grateful look in Naya's eyes, and the weight of the old tradition all lingered in his mind. He tried to focus on his wildlife notes, but his attention drifted again and again. Something inside him told him that the story wasn't over yet. By mid-morning, 2 members of the Apache community approached his camp. Their expressions were friendly but serious. They greeted him politely and explained that the elders wished to speak with him again, this time to discuss the meaning of the tradition more clearly. Daniel agreed because he believed they deserved honesty and understanding. He wanted to clear any confusion with kindness. As they walked together toward the settlement, Daniel noticed the gentle hum of daily life all around. Children played near the trees. Older men worked on repairing fences, and women sorted herbs near a shaded area. Everything felt peaceful. Yet he sensed a quiet curiosity in the air. Some people looked at him with warm respect, others with thoughtful interest. They all knew about the rescue. Naya stood near the elders' gathering place when Daniel arrived. She offered him a small smile, shy but sincere. She looked calmer than she had the previous day, yet he could sense she was still unsure how to feel about everything. He greeted her gently, and she nodded in return. The elders invited Daniel to sit. one of them. A woman with wise, steady eyes spoke first. She thanked him again for the rescue and explained that the community had spent the previous night discussing the old tradition. Some believed it should be honored exactly as it had been in the past. Others felt that life had changed and that old customs should be adjusted to today's world. The conversation had opened many emotions. The elder woman then explained something more personal. Our traditions were created long ago to guide people through difficult moments, she said. But as our lives change, we must look at these traditions with care. We want to do what is respectful and fair for both of you. Daniel felt relieved to hear such thoughtful words. He nodded gently. I want to show respect, he said. But I hope you understand that I cannot accept a bond that neither Naya nor I chose freely. The elders exchanged understanding looks. To Daniel's surprise, Naya stepped forward to speak. Her voice was soft, but she spoke with quiet confidence. I'm grateful for what you did, she said. You saved my life. But I don't want either of us to feel forced into something we did not choose. I want to make my own decisions about my future. Her honesty touched Daniel. He admired her calm strength. The elders listened closely as she continued speaking about her hopes, how she wanted to learn more about her culture's traditions, to help her community grow stronger, and to choose her own path. Her words carried wisdom beyond her years. The elders nodded slowly. They respected her courage. After a long pause, the oldest elder finally spoke. Perhaps the river showed us not only a bond between you two, he said gently, but also the need to reflect on our customs. We must decide whether tradition should guide us or bind us. He turned to Daniel. What do you believe should happen? Daniel took a slow breath. He didn't want to offend or appear ungrateful. He chose his words with care. I think what happened at the river was meaningful, he said. It brought us together in a moment of compassion. But I don't believe compassion should become a promise that neither person agreed to. Instead, I believe it should inspire mutual respect. The elders sat quietly, absorbing his words. They seemed to appreciate his sincerity. Finally, the elder woman stood and placed her hands together. Then perhaps the tradition should change. She said, if it is to remain, it must be based on choice, not obligation. A bond formed through kindness should not become a rule. This statement carried great weight. Several elders nodded. Others looked thoughtful, unsure but open. Slowly, they formed an agreement. The old custom would be reinterpreted. Instead of assuming a life-binding connection, the tribe would honor the rescue with a new understanding, one that respected both tradition and free will. When the decision was announced, gentle relief spread through the small gathering. Naya closed her eyes for a moment, as though a quiet burden had lifted. Daniel felt a warm sense of peace settle within him. But the day wasn't over yet. The elders invited Daniel to stay for a small ceremony, not one of obligation, but one of gratitude. They gathered near a shaded area where soft sunlight filtered through cottonwood leaves. Children sat quietly nearby, curious but respectful. A few musicians played gentle flute tones that mingled with the breeze. It was simple, calm, and beautiful. One elder offered a blessing for the safety of both Daniel and Naya. Another thanked the river for protecting them and guiding them toward understanding. No one spoke loudly or dramatically. Everything was soft and calm, like a warm stream flowing over smooth stones. Naya approached Daniel after the ceremony. She looked peaceful now, her eyes bright with relief. Thank you for understanding, she said softly. I should be thanking you, Daniel replied. You handled everything with so much grace. They shared a quiet moment, appreciating the unusual journey they had traveled together. Even though it had lasted only a few days, it had brought them confusion, learning, and a surprising kind of friendship. Later, Naya walked with Daniel along the riverbank, the same river that had brought them together. She showed him where she liked to gather wild herbs and described how she used them for healing teas. He listened with genuine interest. She spoke with warmth, and he realized she loved her land deeply. Her connection to the community and the environment inspired him. As the sun lowered toward the horizon, the sky turning soft shades of gold and pink, they talked about their dreams, Daniel spoke about his love for wildlife conservation and his hope to inspire others to care for nature. Nia shared that she wanted to study tribal law one day. She wanted to help her community reshape traditions with respect and fairness. Just as they had done that afternoon. By the time the day ended, the river felt calmer, the air softer. Daniel knew it was time to return to his work. He thanked the elders for their kindness and said goodbye to the families who waved to him as he passed. When he reached the path leading back to his campsite, he turned one last time. Nia stood near the trees, smiling gently. He lifted his hand in a small wave, and she returned it with quiet warmth. Walking back alone through the peaceful evening, Daniel felt lighter than he had that morning. He had come to the river expecting only to collect wildlife notes. Instead, he had walked into a moment that connected to people, to worlds, and an old tradition ready to evolve. He did not know if he and Nia would meet again often, but he felt sure that the experience had changed both of them. It had reminded him that even simple acts of kindness can lead to unexpected journeys, sometimes surprising, sometimes complicated, always meaningful. As the last rays of daylight touched the desert hills, Daniel felt grateful, not just for the calmness after the confusion, but for the understanding, trust, and gentle connection that had grown from a single moment beside a river.